Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. Learn from their experiences and navigate the highs and lows of the investing world. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Today's guest is Patrick Precourt. He is a personal development and small business coach. He's an author. He is an athlete and MMA enthusiast. He also owns a gym called the Cage Fitness Center in Rock Hill, Connecticut. He's also a father and a husband. And Patrick, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, thanks for that, Benson. Honored to be here. Looking forward to diving into some of the tougher topics about entrepreneurialism and business and success and growth and knockdown and failures, the kind of stuff that not everybody always likes to talk about, but needs a light shined on it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know intimately. Just so everybody knows, Patrick and I have worked together on a coaching level. So it's really cool to be able to talk to him from a completely different perspective. But you've been around the block a bit, Patrick. You've done a lot in your career. Tell me about, early on how you got into business, and then, how did you get into real estate?
Yeah, and I'll just condense it all. No one wants to get too bored with that, but I guess it's important to know where I came out of, right? So I got involved in real estate investment, creative real estate investment in the late 90s. Didn't really lean into it hard, though, until a little later in my career. I was working full-time as a home inspector in my family home inspection business. And this was after exiting college. Didn't say graduate, exiting college. I was playing rugby full-time, and rugby led to a series of bad injuries. Had to take a break from rugby. I couldn't work construction anymore. Had to do something else. Got into home inspections, a little easier on my body. Did that for a number of years. And in that time, started doing inspections for a few real estate investors. And through those relationships, it came to the obvious realization that as a home inspector, I'm on the wrong end of this equation. Right. There's a better side here. These guys didn't know anything more about houses than I knew. I came from the framing, construction, and building houses and the home inspection space, and here they are, investors, and they're buying and flipping houses and making a ton of money relative to what I was doing. So that really turned up my interest in real estate investment, and from that led into the early 2000s, where we got really heavy into the short sale space and spent a good part of call it almost 10 years, like hardcore, Benson, just doing short sales. And when we started, it was before short sales were like a thing. Most people didn't really know what they were, at least didn't understand them. Realtors were very unfamiliar with them. Banks didn't have loss mitigation departments. Our short sales were done through their customer service, right? Which is, you'd be like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Well, that's how it started, right? And that all morphed and changed, and then legislators got involved and all that kind of good stuff. But towards the end of that, as now we're talking 2007, 8, and 9, when the housing sales slowed down a bit, well, a lot, and the short sales were getting to the end of that. Now we're 2010, so we morphed out of short sales into the home flipping space, because it was really a function of where the money was coming for the consumer, for the buyer. Retail buyers now went from looking for TLC sweat equity homes into turnkey perfect homes, because that's where the money was focused on. No longer were banks saying, hey, we'll give you a loan to buy the house, we'll give you a second loan to fix up the house, and everybody's like, oh, great, we're all going to become carpenters and we're going to fix our own house and have all this equity. Well, we see how that all turned out, right? They should have stuck to their accounting job, not to their carpentry job. But in real estate investment, like, we have to get off of what we want to do or like to do and be really, tuned into what we should be doing. And it forced us out of the short sale space. We had to shut down the entire short sale, business. We had, 13, 14 loss mitigators alone. negotiating debt at one point, right? And go into the rehabbing space. And now our biggest buyer became FHA buyers, turnkey, perfect homes. And there was, that money never dried up. A lot of the conventional finance, we struggled a bit, but the FHA money kind of never went away. So anyways, after that, we got into education space. And take that back. The education started in like 2007, 8, and real estate education, how to do short sales, then how to do real estate investment. And that grew into a nationwide company, one of the larger companies in the country. And it's in that time, Benson, that I realized there was a missing piece in this equation. In other words, we had literally thousands of students, but they were not all performing equally. As a matter of fact, only a small percentage of them were successful by my definition, meaning they liquidated their investment in the training within their first year, right? Which to me, that's pretty good. Think about if college had that standard. If in your first year of work, you liquidated your cost of investment, your investment in education, right? So from that perspective, it's a very high standard, and I know everybody wants everything right now, but man, if you can learn a set of skills and make all that money back in your first year and then have those skills to grow with, that's a fantastic trade of value. But at the end of the day, only a small percentage of people were achieving that threshold. And then you ask yourself, well, what's in common, what's different, and so forth. And here's what is in common: the same information and the same knowledge, the same how-to that's available to everybody. All of these students were getting the exact same education. So the missing piece was not what we always point to. We're like, whenever we don't have something we want, we're like, we must need more knowledge, information, how to, direction, blueprint, all this other kind of stuff. And that was not the missing piece. And as I got further into it and pushed me heavily into the how I operate now, I said, it's not about the information, it's not about the education, it's about the person. So now it got me down a path like, all right, well, what gets people to behave the way they do? And let's look at what drives them there and what separates that. And that's where I got into the science of human behavior, and even the neuroscience of decision making, and how they overlap to understand better why you can know what to do, know how to do it, deeply desire the results, and still fail to consistently execute the behavior. Why is that? Right. And the interesting thing is, Benson, is that by going deeper into that, it became really clear that, human behavior is actually pretty predictable. It really is, outside of like, mental disorders of different types, right? It's pretty easy to get someone to do something that they are struggling to do on their own. If you know a few of the different pressure points and constructs and tools that get us to perform. And then the goal after that is, well, how do we move from just creating change in somebody's life to orchestrating transformation in someone's life? And the difference, and this is somewhat of my own definition, but change is just, you change something in a moment, you get a result. It's kind of like change gets you back to where you were. Transformation gets you out in front. And once you transform, you've expanded. You can't fit back to the same spot you were before. Where change, it's easy to go backwards. That's a longer story.
Yeah, the toothpaste is already out of the tube, right? You can't shove it back.
Don't go back. Yeah, that's transformation.
Right. And so you've been developing these skills of working with people over the years. Do you have any professional training, or is this stuff you just consumed through books and teaching yourself through experiences?
Yeah, so it's more than just study and learning, it's application. Our gym, as an example, is like a giant human laboratory for altering human behavior. Look at the fitness space at large. There's probably no industry that has a higher failure rate than that space. If you take it all in its totality, from people who buy treadmills and put them in their bedroom to their Peloton bike. I saw a brand new Peloton bike being listed for sale for $200. Like, that, because it devalued itself that much sitting in this person's home, to give you an example. Wow. But weight loss programs and gym memberships, right? Most gym memberships don't get used. The vast majority of all gym memberships do not get used, right? And I know that because I'm in the gym business, right? So appreciating the gym, I have a human laboratory for where people usually fail. And we anchored our success in our gym on producing results for our clients. So it forced us to cross that bridge. And I'll just give you one little piece just so you can open up your mind for the listeners about like where we're at with it. People come to our gym and say, I want to lose weight. That's fantastic. I get it. Great, healthy, good goal. Okay. Right. How much you want to lose? They tell me. Now, what I found is that most people set goals not based on what there's no real logic behind their goal. And the goal is very it's intangible to them. They don't believe necessarily that they can achieve the goal. And oftentimes it's because they've set so many goals in the past and failed to perform and execute. They don't believe in this one either. Well, that means our job is not to provide great equipment or a clean environment or safe environment or great trainers. Our job is to alter the belief system so that they actually believe that they're the person who can produce the results that they desire. So we focus, we dial in on that. Once that belief has changed, Benson, I can't stop them from performing. So, and that's just one little tool, one little construct that on what we do. So to answer your question, my professional training is in actually application of knowledge and playing it out, seeing how it works, and creating tools around it to prove out that it's repeatable. And that's why I said after all these years, you realize that human behavior is pretty predictable.
Oh, I bet it is. And you could probably find, common reasons between people, regardless if it's education space and you're teaching them how to do real estate investing, or if they want to lose weight. You could probably tie it down to like 5 to 10 core reasons that people just don't follow through with what they promise themselves they're going to do.
Yeah. And a lot of it in large is just because they have a track record of promising themselves to do something and they don't execute. And that establishes a belief that they cannot overcome. So we can't outperform our belief system. When Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you're right. I know that's not word for word, but he was 100% correct.
Right.
So it wasn't about the circumstance. It was about your take on the circumstance. If you believe you can and believe you can't, you are right in both scenarios. And what he's saying is you can't get past your belief system. So we often talk about Benson mindset. And it's kind of interesting to me in like the social media world, how everybody's become like a mindset coach and a mindset authority, and it's mindset everything. B, how little people understand the concept of mindset. So mindset, from my perspective, is a very literal word, meaning your mind is set. You can't change it. So you say, oh man, Benson, if you just had a better mindset. Well, no, your mind's set, but it's a lag indicator or a reflection of what you believe. So if I said, hey, Benson, man, you got to train and get ready for a 26-mile marathon. You got 3 months to do it. And you fundamentally believe you could not do that. Like that was just, you don't run. That's not in the cards, etc. Your knee hurts and all this other stuff, right? Then your mindset would reflect that. You'd be like, no, Pat, I can't do that. And somebody on the outside listening was, well, Benson, if you just change your mindset on it, then it'd be possible. No, you have to believe it's possible for it to become possible. Not guaranteed, but at least possible. So the work on our part then is to chip away at beliefs, limiting beliefs, and replace them with beliefs that work congruent with what we're trying to achieve in life. And on that topic of limiting beliefs, I'll tell every listener right now, every single human being has limiting beliefs. And that doesn't make it bad or you bad. It just means that there's beliefs that we've outgrown that no longer serve us, and they're holding us back from moving forward. So the way I talk about it is, just look at it as a chain on a bike. There's always a weak link. It doesn't even mean it's a bad link, but it's weaker than the rest, right? So our goal is always to level up the weakest link. And that's how beliefs should be looked at as well, right? Constantly challenging what we know to be true. And of course, if we're too ego protected or just too arrogant or, dare I say, narcissistic, will come up empty in that search, because we'll be right in everything, right? So this does require a tad of humility. But an exercise I go through almost every single morning, right, is I ask myself, okay, what am I holding on to as true that may not be so anymore? And it's a very introspective question, but it allows you to, without judgment, like just look at the stuff you think is real or true, and see if it still serves you. That
What's
makes
an
sense.
example of that? Like that maybe you found yourself or somebody else. What's an example of what you're talking about?
So, yeah, good. So my rugby career ended in short order, a series of bad concussions when I was 37 years old. So I played a little late in my career, and I still play like in like alumni tournaments every year, stuff like that, but not active competitive rugby, right? And I had a belief that I was physically done. Uh, I'm a has-been, I'm over the hill, because that's kind of what society was telling me anyways, and that's where we operate at that age. It took a little soul searching and a little kind of crashing to realize, because that mindset then said, Pat, don't even go to the gym anymore. Why bother? Let your health go to hell. What difference is
Right.
it? Right. Well, that didn't sit too well and didn't last too long. So I started challenging it. And long story short, I fought my first MMA cage fight when I was 42. Right. You're like, huh. Well, that pushes the limit the other way, doesn't it? Right. And
Right. And you're not going to get a concussion doing MMA, right? It's completely safe.
it's safer. I know this sounds bizarre, but rugby was 1,000 times more physically damaging to my body. I never got hurt in MMA. And
Wow.
obviously we fought in a cage. We went hard, but I've never been hurt in MMA. I've been broken in rugby, both
Wow.
ACLs, both shoulders, multiple concussions, well over, we didn't count them all, but well over 300 stitches in my face, like broken. Rugby's tough on your body. Never been hurting. So MMA was kind of like a yoga class. I'm like, this is kind of cool. But it required that shift in belief. And then once I challenged my old belief and started realizing that, no, I just got through an entire cardio kickboxing class here, and I'm still in one piece. I still got something. So then you go a little more, and you go a little longer, you go a little harder, and you're building back this new belief now. And then you start saying, well, shit, let's look around for evidence that supports this new belief. And you look out there and you see a guy at 62 years old rolling on the mats in jiu-jitsu. Like, what the hell am I thinking? Right? Pat, get your
Right.
ass in gear and get back at it. And then through your progress and here's the key thing about establishing new beliefs. Our beliefs will change when we have new evidence, new facts to support the new belief. But you don't need the whole enchilada all at once. We just need little bits and pieces to feed it. Then we go a little further and feed it and go a little further. And then we start finding outside evidence that supports the direction we're going. Right. And for long, man, yeah, we're a new person there. Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. And that's, kind of what you were telling me about before we went live was, how you're going to be building this program where you can create these situations where people can find that evidence, right? But you're creating it almost artificially, right? Which will lead to, what we're going to talk about here in a bit, but your outdoor elite edge group, right? Now that to me is really exciting and fun. I can't wait to talk more about it, but it was really interesting to me to understand that, right? Understand, but also see that it's possible to create these artificial scenarios that maybe you can't go and experience in the real world, because they're hard to create. And so you can artificially create these scenarios where people can find evidence that they can do things that what they thought was true isn't true, or they can create new truths and new beliefs. That to me is exciting about what you're doing.
Yeah. So and I think you're in reference to the stuff we do live. It's artificial only in the context that it's not happening organically in your real life. Instead, we bring you into an environment where we create these experiences that allow us to operate in an elevated emotional state and be forced to operate critically. They challenge us to be our best, right? And this is probably, if you ask me, what is one of the top 4 or 5 things that adults fail at, and it's exactly this. It's the idea that we let our emotions get out in front of our decision making. We let our emotions, whether we're fearful or angry or sad, we let them influence our decisions. And when we start letting emotions influence decisions, then our decisions cannot be counted on. They're not reliable at that point, because it's no longer using our left brain or our critical brain to make the decision, right? All emotions lie to you. So an elevated emotion, a positive emotion that's elevated, you'll by default make things look better than they are. It's no different than going to like a seminar, an event, and the speaker is just, he's magnetic, he's really, really, really motivational, inspiring. He's got you bouncing around and getting your entire physiology engaged in it. And then they push you into a sale, because they know when they get you nice and positive that you won't challenge. You won't use your normal critical thinking and ask the tough questions and challenge anything. You'll see only the good, and you'll look for things that support the good, and you'll make the decision, the buying decision, right? There's that stuff is not by chance, right? But we do the same thing on the negative. When we see, when we make things, when we have a negative mindset or negative energy going on, we'll tend to make things, a negative emotion, we'll make them appear much worse than they are. We'll start creating all of these stories. We'll start fantasizing about a future that sucks, that we don't want to see happen, and then experience the stress and anxiety about this what if made up future that has not happened. And this becomes a fearful future, right? How do you make a decision, the right decision, when you're stuck in that elevated emotional state? So anyways, the part of what we do is we create environments that allow us to be pushed into these emotional states and have to operate critically within a team environment. So a lot of it comes out of the training from the U.S. Navy SEALs. My partner is a U.S. Navy SEAL. So they bring in a lot of that psychology into it. Because after all, when you look at what makes you Navy SEALs unique, there's 2 things that to me make them extraordinary. One is their high rate of success, the level at which they win at. And number 2, the fact that they win in the most chaotic, uncertain, unknown conditions. So they don't have a roadmap to follow. They have a plan, of course, right? But their plan is likely, this plan sucks, because when we get there, it's not going to be anything like we expect, and we're going to have to thrive, not survive anyways. And they're trained to operate in chaos, and most people collapse under chaos. Most people in the state of uncertainty become very uncomfortable, right? But what if you could train yourself to not just get by those times, but to step into that? That's where you step into your sweet spot. That makes you impactful. It makes you a great leader. Gives you a sense of power and control, right? So it's pretty cool stuff.
And who better to learn from than people who literally put their lives on the line in these chaotic situations? Like, there isn't a better example. Like a notch down from that is like, professional athletes, right? But why not elevate yourself to that? So you said your business partner is a former U.S. Navy SEAL. Is that in this group you're talking about, or just in general,
so he
participates other things?
Yeah, so he participates in our live events, but also in our small group events too. So there's kind of 2 sides to this equation. The other one is what we do in small group, and that effectively is the idea of getting guys together on a weekly basis and holding them to an extreme level of accountability, in order to create consistent progress. It's funny, Benson, the word like the discussion about happiness comes up a lot, and what it takes to be happy. And like, I would never claim myself as an expert on happiness, but I do buy into the idea that there are 2 foundational pieces that contribute massively to happiness. One of them is contribution, and then the second one is progress, right? Progress, knowing that every day we're moving towards something that we want to see happen in our lives, and being able to measure that progress. And then contribution is belonging to something bigger than ourselves and being a contributing member of it. So the small groups are designed to fulfill both of those, right? So we have every participant in it has a personalized dashboard that they report to, and then they'll be compared to the others, but ultimately they'll be held accountable for what they said they're going to do. And for many, particularly men, this act alone will be life altering for them, in that it will retrain their distrust in themselves. The distrust comes from making promises to ourselves that we don't fulfill on. And then we repeat different promises over time. Before long, we don't even believe our own words to ourselves, right? Hard to move forward from that. And this process rebuilds that. So we get to a point where we can look ourselves in the mirror and say, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm freaking going to do it. And we get a little more, quite honestly, choosy in what we say we're going to do, which we should, instead of just jumping on the bandwagon of somebody else's current goals that they're going for. Say, whoa, time out. Don't commit to this unless you're 100% certain you're going to see it through. Right. Say, well, am I really going to see it through? And then you reevaluate it, because you're better off not committing at all than you are to committing and quitting. That leaves a scar.
I've heard that from, high performing people in business and entrepreneurship, that one of the hardest things for them to do, or the things that they were most proud of doing, was learning to say no to things, like not trying to do it all, but not trying to please people, but being okay with saying no.
Yeah. Well, you'll let somebody down a lot harder when you agree to do it, and now they're counting on you and you don't do it. And here's the thing, this is, a lot of people, and I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, it's just human behavior. Like, we like to be liked, right? We like to be liked by other people. We don't want to upset people. A lot of people are a bit adverse to confrontation, which isn't a bad thing, up and until it gets so overwhelming that we can't say no, because we want them to like us, and we don't want the confrontation, and so forth and so on, right? And we have to appreciate that desire for short-term gratification, to be liked in a moment, is going to blow up later, right? And the only way for this really to work is to step over that need to be liked right now, even if they're a little pissed at you in a moment, but they'll respect you long-term for it. So there's a big difference there.
Oh yeah. So this live event that you curate, tell me more about that. Like, what is it all about? You've done it before, right? This isn't something brand new you're doing.
And the last one we did was in October. It was in the mountains of Colorado. We're going to go back to the same place. It's an off-grid location. It's probably about 9,000 feet in elevation. It's actually really cool. Small, 12 to 15 guys, and 3 full days. And when it's really, so you come in the day before, you get kind of introduced and accustomed the night before. Then the next morning we start before daybreak, and we go all day till after dark. We do that 3 days in a row. And then the final day we wrap up in the morning and we head home. The way I do the events are all inclusive, meaning you get yourself to the airport, we'll pick you up from there. Room, board, food, your workout kit, the whole 9 yards, we got you covered there. We do that just to control the environment a bit. The ultimate idea is, in a very short, compressed amount of time, to elevate us, to break down certain beliefs and reestablish new beliefs, as an example, like we're talking about, but really to raise our standards in all areas of life. I have found that guys tend to underperform if we're not pushed, and if we're not being held accountable, and myself included. So I know all this stuff, and I also know that I underperform when I'm not being pushed, right? It's just, maybe it's our desire for comfort. I do not know, but I don't have to know. All I got to know is, well, the solution to it is put yourself in environments that are conducive to you winning. And that's exactly what this launches, right? So we got 3 days of very, very experiential challenges. And this isn't like Hell Week or pretend to be a Navy SEAL or anything like that. This is the other end. It's really capitalizing on the experience the experience and wisdom of the Navy SEALs. And generally we have 2 SEALs there at a time with us. just to help fulfill what we do, and break into 3 teams. And from there, the 3 teams get trained throughout the week, or out the 3 days, and on a third day, they compete against each other. So there's and really that's where you get to show what you've learned, right? But it's also where you get to work as a team. And that's a big part of this as well. And, how you relate to communication and exchange of leadership roles and all that kind of stuff. So I call it, teamness. How high is your level of teamness? In rugby, which I played for, man, I think maybe almost 15 years. Rugby is a little different sport in that rugby it's like soccer in the sense that it's flowing. It's kind of like water, except we don't have any timeouts, right? So the game is constantly going. And if you could picture a field like a football field, it's just longer and wider, but it has vertical lanes, okay, that go up and down the field. Every one of those lanes, somebody's got to be responsible for. And for a rugby team to operate, right? Everybody's got to be able to count on the other 14 guys to do their job. All it takes is one breakdown in one lane to allow a score to go back the other way, right?
Right.
You got to count on each other. Everybody has different roles, but equal status in hierarchy. Even the captain, I captained our team for many years. Captain has a certain role on a team, but in the actual play, you're all the same because you all have certain responsibilities to execute, right? And that's where teamness was cemented in me in my years of rugby. And I wish somehow you could inject that type of experience immediately into the working world today, but it's hard to. It's difficult to. We try to bring that into our 3 days so you get a good sense of what it's like to rely on teammates without question. You don't doubt it for a second, if that makes any sense. And your success relies on your ability to let go and trust. There's
that's a skill in itself, is trusting in others. People, you talked about all of the times that people fail themselves, but oftentimes we're hurt most by people when they let us down.
Yeah.
And so, there's those trust issues. People have trust issues in relationships and at work and in sports, and it's like those people, the ball hogs, right? They don't even want to pass the ball because they believe that they're the ones that can score and nobody else can. So do you have situations that you guys create during this outdoor experience where you're putting pressure on them, like you're testing specific things? Is you're saying at this particular event, maybe it's a 2-hour thing, we're testing your ability to trust somebody else? Is there stuff like that?
There is, all even down to preparing weapons. We do a lot of shooting, not shooting for the sense of blowing up. Oh, this is cool, blow stuff up. Although it is cool to blow stuff up. That's not what we're doing. We're doing it for the safety and the understanding and how to effectively use firearms and how to use firearms under pressure, right? And that comes down to setting up a gun range and having a master of arms walk you down a range. It's a timed event. You have a fixed amount of rounds and a fixed amount of time, and your goal is to score as high as you can on the variety of targets. And of course, some of those limitations work against each other. You only have this much time, right? So you want to go as fast as you can, but that will probably make you a little less accurate. And you want to as many shots as at scoring as you can, which means shooting more often, but you have a fixed amount of ammo.
Right.
And then when we add in other levels of conflict into that, like you go to pick up the next weapon and the clip's empty. We're creating environments where you've got to sort stuff out, and you do have a team. Okay, you're not alone on this because it's your team score versus their team score. So the way we engage what you're talking about is we create completely uncertain circumstances where something has to happen. You can't solve it on your own. You don't know that, but you can't, and you need a teammate to help out. And your ability then to lean into a teammate what to do, how to do it, all that kind of stuff comes into play now. Does that make sense? And that's just kind of like one little
Oh
example.
yeah, that's one thing over 3 days.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Just being out there is a challenge, right? Because you have to deal with the elements, potentially lack of sleep. You have all these new personality dynamics you have to deal with, and learning to work with people who maybe you don't like. Right? There's going to be some egos potentially up there, people who have done some, maybe some impressive things that think, oh yeah, I'm the best guy here, right? I've made this much money, I've got this kind of car, this is just a way for me to get outdoors and shoot some stuff, right? But everybody's dealing with something different all at the same time.
Yeah.
Why would anybody put themselves through this? Like, what is the point?
Yeah, so good. That's a great question. And in simple terms, you'd put yourself through this because you're in a position in your life where life has more to offer to you, but you're not seeing the consistent progress towards whatever that is. There's more to this game. You're capable of more. And this could be in your relationships, your family, it could be in your business, finance, your leadership, your impact, all of the above, right? There's more. And right now you're just not experiencing it. So, and this happens, it's just, we get comfortable in our environments, which are people environments, or mental environments, emotional environments, physical environments. But those environments kind of create our day every single day. Our inability to change our mind and make different decisions is pretty impressive. We get stuck making the same decisions day after day after day after day, to the point where our subconscious is ruling our world, right? This is the picture. We're on a trajectory in life, and Newton said it very well when he said a body in motion tends to stay in motion. One of his, it's his first or second law, right? Body motion tends to stay in motion in a straight line, right? It just keeps going like this until an opposing force intersects that trajectory and knocks it off on another trajectory. We are that opposing force. We change which way we're headed, and the idea is to change it to a trajectory that you want, that you're trying to achieve. Does that make sense?
It does. So someone should come, they've got challenges, right? So somebody who's perfect wouldn't attend, or are you thinking that there's always
someone
room for improvement?
Someone who wants more. Yeah.
More of anything.
So perfect's a funny word because it doesn't fit in the human construct, and that humans are designed imperfectly, and to reach perfect would be in conflict of our very DNA, and that perfect implies cannot be improved. Whereas we are designed to consistently grow and expand, improve. So those two don't even sit in the same ballpark together. Now, if our ego says something different, then the irony in that is the ego is the imperfection in the equation that they're discussing about their perfection.
Right.
Ego, we all have an ego, and ego gets a bad rap sometimes, but it also gets a deserving rap, in that ego will protect you good. It will protect you even when you need to grow bad. When I say, hey, Benson, you have a belief and that belief is wrong, immediately you will get defensive and you will protect that. And even if you learn that belief is in fact wrong, or you're like, yeah, this probably is not too good a belief anymore, your ego will still defend that belief, because your beliefs create your self-image. And right, no one wants to be wrong in who they are. Ego don't want to be wrong, and that's the immediate spot we go to. We must be, for this to be off, then I must be wrong, and it's just not like that. It's an improper way for, again, particularly guys, improper way for us to go about looking at it. What we have to appreciate is that we outgrew that belief. That belief may have been great for a number of years, but that was then. And now I'm a different human being. I've experienced different things. I've learned different things. I have a new way to look at life, just based on all the changes I've made in life. So that belief doesn't serve me anymore,
Right.
Does that make so? And I mean, you look at it, you see it in relationships all the time, where somebody says, yeah, they had this perfect image of what their whole world would look like, and that never came out. So then they change their belief because they say, well, that belief must have been wrong because it didn't happen to me. And well, no, there's nothing wrong with your belief around relationships. It's just that you didn't experience the outcomes that you wanted, and that's different, you know. But,
Right. So when is the next event coming up? Because this sounds really cool. I mean, I'm in Colorado.
yeah.
But it's when is this going to happen?
So the next event is the 27th of April. I think it's 27th, 28th, 29th.
Okay.
Yeah, in a little town called Cotopaxi. And yeah, however you want to give people access to information, I can, let's talk about that. And we'll get anyone who's interested, So the process, because you brought up a good point earlier. You said it could be interesting when you have conflicting personalities or somebody who's really ego driven and stuff like that. And that's why I genuinely take the time, Benson, to go through an onboarding session with every single person that comes to the event to make sure they're the right person. And that serves both of us, because if you're not the right person, that does not mean you're right or wrong, or I'm right or wrong. It just means we're not right together, right? That's all.
Sure.
But that also means if you're the wrong person, it won't be a fulfilling event for you, and it won't help others who are there, right? So I do my best.
So they have to apply. You're not going to take everybody.
Correct, 100%. And I think everybody can appreciate that. And again, it's not a point of judgment or who's right or who's wrong or anything like that. It's just shit, there's a lot of people that don't like my personality. Does that make them wrong? No. Does it make me wrong? No. Just means we don't gel up. There's nothing wrong with that. If you said, hey, Pat, I really don't like you anymore because of this, and this, I'd respect that. I may not agree with it, but I'd respect it. I don't hate you for it. It's just it's where you're at. It's where I'm at. And that's okay. It's okay. Not everybody's got to like everybody.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, what are the qualifications then? If through this onboarding, like if somebody that's listening right now is thinking, oh, that sounds cool. Like, who would you tell, like, oh, you shouldn't even apply?
Yeah. So it would start with this, and this probably sounds a little imprecise, but got to have an open mind, because one of the context or contextual pieces of this is an extraordinary level of uncertainty, meaning that you don't know anything about what's happening for the next 3 days. You don't know timing. You don't know who you're going to be with. You don't know the changes, the surprises, when we're going to start, when we're going to end. And you don't know it until you need to know. Now, you can probably imagine this attracts a lot of kind of A personality guys, right? Who need to know so they feel in control. And when they don't know, they feel out of control.
Right.
So if you can't operate at all in that environment, this would not be a great experience for you. So that's the part about the open mind. Be open-minded. Trust the process, right? Make your decisions after you've gone through it, and have faith that no matter what happens, it will serve you in the end, right? Because why wouldn't you? If you're going to go in, bet on the best possible outcome. And that's what I would ask of people. So this also requires us to be a bit humble and appreciate that we're there to support our team and our team us. And it means we got to be really focused on that element I talked about, a teamness, right? Egos, all that kind of stuff. That quickly gets weeded out, because you realize you got to focus your energy on something else here, because there's always something you're responsible for, right?
Right.
So I'm not every once in a while I'll talk to someone, and I don't even have to get to us, having a call to realize that they're not in the right mindset or mental space to be part of this yet, And again, no judgment, but I don't have to hear too much from them to understand that and see where they're at, So that usually it's before we even get to the call that part's taken care of. You don't have to be a triathlete, like I said.
That was my next question: is what about the physical demands?
Yeah.
Like,
So
is there anybody who?
Yeah, we do PT in the morning. We do some hiking, stuff like that. We do some little physical challenges, but they're not extraordinary. They're not like nothing to do with like SEAL level stuff like we're trying to kill you. That's not the intention of this, right?
Right.
We do more to stay warm.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too, is like you guys go to great lengths to make sure everybody's safe and they're taken care of, right? All their needs are met. You're not going to drop somebody off in a field and, come back 3 days later with a helicopter and hope that they're alive, right? Like people are going to be taken care of. There's no
Oh
fear
yeah.
about that, right?
Yeah. No one will ever be alone, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
because you buddy up and things like that. But yeah, no, that part we put high regard to. And one thing, if you join us, Benton, one thing you'll recognize right away is that SEALs are planners. They plan out everything. They plan out, what should be plan A, but they know plan A never plays out as plan A. So they plan out every other possibility option that forms around it, so that no matter how chaotic it is, no matter what happens, there's a solution to it.
Right.
Yeah, and that coming from a guy who's not a very good planner, that's pretty impressive to me.
Well, you know how to build a team, right? Like you
That
you
part
bring
I
in
got.
people to cover your blind spot, right? Who's got your six. You got to make sure that there's somebody there that can cover you. And
Mhm.
it sounds like you guys have, over the years that you've been doing this, you've tweaked it, and it's come to like the pinnacle now of what it is. Have you ever had anybody famous come through? People would know, like, oh yeah, I know that person. They did that.
Yeah, no,
It's
like real famous people,
Yeah,
but I'll tell you if I do.
yeah. I think that would be cool to bring somebody in like that because, have you seen that show? There's a show right now that's on television. I can't remember what channel it's on, but they put people in like these um special forces situations, and a lot of them are famous people. Some of them aren't. Have you seen that show?
No.
No, you might look it up. It's a pretty cool concept. But this right here, it sounds amazing. Where can people go to learn more about this event? And what do you call it exactly? What's the
Yeah, so
full?
it's branded under the Elite Edge, and this is the Elite Edge experience because we have the live event, and then we have small group version, which is remote side of it. But
Mhm.
so it's Elite Edge experience, and they can either go to my website, which is patrickprecourt.com, or find me on social media and just DM me. And really easy to get hold of. I love talking to people, love answering your questions. And like I said, I like very much creating relationship long before the event happened, and spending enough time to know that this event is right for you, meaning that you're going to walk out of this thing being like, wow, that was the best 3 days of my life that I've spent in quite a while. That's the intention of our event. Our last event, we had 100% of the participants say they'd recommend it to a family member or a friend, and 100% of the participants say they'll come back and repeat it again. Right. So it
Mm.
it it meant something to them.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like it's like life changing.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like if somebody just wants more in their life, more of anything, more success, more money, better relationships, better health, fitness, physique, like those are the kinds of people here that want more should come to this event.
Yeah. And the other one is you're stuck, you've lost direction, you're seeking out just meaning and purpose. Perfect place to come. Um, it fits everybody in that bucket.
That's amazing. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes here. So for anybody out there that is interested in learning more about this event with Patrick, and his SEAL partners, which is crazy to say, right? But you've actually got SEALs that are going to be there just to be around those kinds of people. I think is going to be a lot. You can glean off of the people that have been at war, right? They've probably seen some really nasty things, and they're going to be there to talk, and everyone's going to be working together. It sounds amazing.
The first thing I think you'll realize, Benton, and now I'm gaslighting you into it, but the first thing you'll realize when you meet these gentlemen is they are the most humble human beings you've ever met and are in complete conflict of how we perceive Navy SEALs. We think so there's Navy SEALs out there in the social space that are loud and, so forth, right? Most of the SEAL community does not sit in that spot. Most of the SEAL community goes by the idea of, don't sell the trident. Trident's what they earned. That's it. Upon getting, into the SEAL program, right? Mm-hmm. And when they say don't sell the trident, they don't profit on who we are. Who we are special, and there's no dollars that are worth selling it. And that's why even as partners, I don't lead out, say, hey, come join this Navy SEAL program. I don't say that out in the public or out in, in social media. I'll mention that it has, we have SEAL trainers or something, but I don't use that as like the highlight of the selling point. Navy SEALs are ruthlessly humble. They're genuine human beings, and to your point, they've seen enough of the bad sides of humanity to completely appreciate the good sides of humanity,
Amazing, Patrick.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, I'm so humbled that you took the time to be here with me. And for anybody listening, check the show notes. Go look into Elite Edge. Live experience. It could absolutely change your life for the better. But Patrick, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, whoever joins us on the next one of the other things, like the benefits, is you leave with a tribe of brothers, man. You've made relationships, friendships in this event that will stay with you for life. It's kind of nuts how deeply the bonds are formed in such a short period of time. But yeah, pleasure being on here with you, Benson.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody, thank you for checking out this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Share this with other people. I definitely believe they're going to get some value out of it. And then keep an eye out for upcoming editions. We've got lots of real estate investing advice, entrepreneurial, success stories. We bring on more people like Patrick who have done a lot of exciting things in business and in life. So, please like and follow this, and we'll see you on the next post. Everybody take care.
Peace.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.